The House of Representatives, my decision on 25th May 2019 to decline presidential assent to the Nigerian Maritime University or Karen Koko Establishment Bill 2018, recently passed by the National Assembly. I'm declining assent to the bill because the funding provisions in Section 1, subsection 5 of the bill are grossly excessive and would disrupt the operations of a number of government agencies and institutions. The funding provisions, which include the following: 1% of the total annual income of the Nigeria Petroleum Development Company, NPDC Limited, 1% of the total annual revenue of the Nigerian Content Monitoring Board, NCMB, a tertiary education trust fund, 5% of the total NIMASA revenue, and Petroleum Technology Development Fund, PTDF. These, therefore, would negatively affect the operations of the agencies whose funding will be arbitrarily deducted. Please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances on highest consideration. Yours sincerely, President Muhammadu Buhari. This announcement is from Honorable Ahmed Abu. I don't think he's on the floor. He said, I write to inform Mr. Speaker and my honorable colleagues of my decision to return to the All Progressives Congress, APC. Mr. Speaker, you would recall my letter dated 14th November 2018, notifying the Honorable House of my decision to resign my membership of the All Progressive Congress, APC. This decision was as a result of the circumstances surrounding the APC primaries which prompted my exiting the party. However, it is imperative to state that most of the issues which led to my withdrawing from the APC no longer exist. Accordingly, after due consultations with my family and team and supporters, I'm happy to inform you that I've decided to retrace my steps and return to the APC. I hereby pledge my loyalty and determination to join hands with the APC in moving the country forward. Please accept the assurances of my best wishes and regards. Announcer Honorable Ahmed Abu, MP. I think we need to have someone serve as the whip. Honorable Munir Babadan Ogundi, serve as the cover for your countryman. Point of orders, two of them. Honorable Nenna first, then Honorable Chris after Nenna is done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So point of
Honorable
order.
Sajos, approach the chair, please.
My name is Nana Ilandu KJ, member representing Bende Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, so I'm from Abia State. I come under Order 8, Rule 4, matter of urgent public importance. May I move? Mr. Speaker, sir, my matter of urgent importance derives from the widely held belief that there is an executive order that has been passed by the executive arm of government by Mr. President that seeks to revoke all the licenses of all guns in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, sir, I consider at this point this matter to be urgent with regards to the fact that in the light of our present security situation, that Mr. President should indeed take another cursory look at this executive order so that we can ensure that the average Nigerian citizen has the opportunity to protect self, especially since we're talking about the revocation of already licensed guns and not guns without licenses. I so move.
Honorable Frederick Abedi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Yetimna Frederick is my name. I represent Sagbama Krema Federal Constituency. Izonkeme, I'm from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion, first leg of the motion, as ably moved by Honorable Nena. So second.
Those in favor of the motion that the matter is urgent, say aye. Those against it, say nay. Ayes have it. Second limb that we suspend our rules to enable her take the motion. Honorable Abonta. Honorable Johnson Oguma. Is it relocation or migration? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Uzoma Kim Abonta is my name. Mr. Speaker, I support and move in support that we suspend our rules to discuss and talk about this all important, topical, widely circulated issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Nena Ukeji, please move the motion.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, sir. The House notes with concern the rising spate of insecurity in our country. The House is worried that insecurity, which was hitherto confined to the northeast and north-central states, has spread rapidly to the northwestern states and all other parts of the country. The House is further worried that there is an increased number of deaths resulting from terrorism, kidnapping, banditry, and other violent crimes. The House notes that in response to the local and international outcry and concern for Nigeria's security situation, Mr. President, it is alleged that Mr. President signed an executive order to remove, revoke, and banish all gun certificates and licenses throughout the Federation. The House is concerned that this omnibus order targets legal gun owners and their guns, while there doesn't seem to be either institutional actionable policies or plans to mop up small arms and light weapons that are at the center of these crimes. The House is convinced that the high number of illegal guns is responsible, amongst other factors, for the increase in crime. The House therefore resolves to urge Mr. President to, in the interest of the Nigerian people who are left vulnerable to the activities of mindless criminals, terrorists, bandits, and kidnappers, to please reverse this wildly speculated decision as it strips the people of the rights to life and self-defense, to urge Mr. President to sign into law the bill on the establishment of the National Commission against the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which is not only a domestic law, but a treaty obligation, so as to help us to curb the inflow of illegal weapons that have been used at the theater of wars and therefore have increased the mindless insecurity in our country. I so move. Can I start the debate?
Seconder. Honorable Shekaro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Hassan Adamu Shekarau, representing Birnin Gwari, Giwa Federal Constituency. I am from Kaduna State. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nena, please lead the debate.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, for yielding to me and to my colleagues as well, for allowing me move this motion that I consider at this point in time to be very expedient. Mr. Speaker, sir, this motion, of course, the job of every legislator is that we collate the aggregate opinion of a critical mass of the people at whose pleasure we serve. And this motion, the topic of this motion has been very topical. It has been in the public, and Nigerians are very concerned about the veracity and the actions that may derive from this very important, in my opinion, motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, judging from the number of motions that have been brought to the floor of this House on insecurity around the country, and Nigerians have also realized that in the event, Mr. Speaker, could I please? Thank you. Judging from the number of motions that have been brought to the floor of the House, there's a consensus that has been raised by Nigerians and everybody around the world that guns have become the scourge, insecurity has become the scourge of Nigeria's existence. Mr. Speaker, sir, this continued clamor has carried on both within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, by our friends, our international partners, and even those who don't like us very much. And I have absolutely no doubt that it has lent credence to the narrative that Nigeria is starting to become referred to as a fragile state. Mr. President, in his wisdom, I believe, based on all this pressure, has decided to take into his hands the decision to do something about this clamor for security. And I'm sure that that is behind Mr. President signing into law the allegations that Mr. President signed into law an executive order seeking to revoke all licenses in Nigeria, all gun licenses in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, sir, of course, Mr. President derives those powers from Section 36 of the Firearms Act, and therefore this motion is not to determine whether Mr. President had any right to do that, because it is contained in the Firearms Act. But however, Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe also that Section 33 of the Constitution, sub 1 and 2, guarantees every citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria the right to life. And it states, and I shall quote, "A person shall not be regarded as having been deprived of his life in contravention of this section if he dies as a result of the use to such an extent in such circumstances as permitted by law of such force as is reasonably necessary, and for the defense of any person from unlawful violence or for the defense of his property." Furthermore, Section 44 says that no movable property or any interest of any movable property shall be taken possession of compulsorily, and no right over or interest in any of such property shall be acquired compulsorily in any part of Nigeria except in the manner and for the purposes prescribed by law, amongst other things. Mr. Speaker, sir, of course, I'd like to say that the arguments, the constitutional arguments, may be very strong against the Firearms Act, but I do not intend to over-legalize this debate. I shall leave it to my learned friends to do that. But let me speak to the extent that we're all in agreement, Mr. Speaker, that violence has become our national scourge and we need gun control. But there's also the consensus that that in itself alone is not responsible for the spate of insecurity that our country currently faces. My concern is that this executive order targets only legal guns, and there doesn't seem to be any actionable plan that targets the guns in the hands of criminals. In the words of the Inspector General of Police when he appeared recently before the Senate, he admitted that there was a huge struggle in apprehending criminals. The primary responsibility of government, as is often said on the floor of this House, is the defense of its citizens. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, the question is, are we as Nigerians rest assured that the government, the police, the military is able to grant us the defense, the security that we crave? Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that, unfortunately, in Nigeria, our bane again is statistics. There are no statistics to show that the crimes that are perpetrated by licensed guns far outweigh the crimes that are perpetrated by non-licensed guns. But Over the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have spoken, I have brought to the floor my legislative baby was proliferation of small arms and light weapons. And of course, these guns continue to be in Nigeria. It is widely known, Mr. Speaker, that the weapon of choice for conflict in Africa is the Kalashnikov 1947 rifle. In some cases, the AKM Chinese Type 56 and the Serbian M70. Added that to rocket weapons, grenades, rocket-propelled launchers, etc., etc., Mr. Speaker, this scourge is upon us. I am not aware, and I have seen every time that a criminal has been apprehended, that you see that they either have locally made weapons or they carry AK-47s. AK-47s are not guns that are licensed by Nigerian government. So my concern is that when a policy of government targets the guns that have been licensed, and before a person is issued a gun license, the person goes through a stringent background check. He must be over 17, he must be of sound mind, he must not have a criminal record, and so on and so forth. But nobody's saying anything about the guns that are the AK-47s and the military-grade assault weapons that are in the hands of these criminals. Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe that aside from everything else, the conversations, and it was very interesting for me, that the Northern Governors Forum rose from a meeting last week, and in their meeting, they spoke to insecurity. And all the things that they said was what? The lack of codification of the penal laws in the north. And they said that certain crimes like kidnapping, cattle rustling were not codified. That was one of the things they spoke to. Another thing they spoke to was education, human resource development, the widespread drugs, lack of infrastructure. At no point did they talk about these guns. I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, that for us to adequately tackle what is going on, we must know where these guns come from. Mr. Speaker, Nigeria is a country that is lucky or unlucky to be surrounded by so many conflict areas. In the north, we have all the guns that are coming in from Mali. It is likely said that you can buy an AK-47 for $150 on the streets of Mali. We have the guns coming in from Yemen, from Libya. We have the guns coming in from Misrata. And all these guns are in the north of Africa. In the south, for instance, we have those guns coming in from the Bight of Benin and from the Bakassi area. Mr. Speaker, our country has so many guns. There was an institutional mode for government to actually come together, set up a commission to mop up these guns, because it is my belief that at the heart of these crimes are illicit guns. I therefore don't want to take up too much time of Parliament. I'm sure some of my colleagues have things to contribute to, but the prayer of this motion is to ask Mr. President that he please rescind this decision. Take into account the fact that there's something known as mutually assured destruction. That if a man is coming to your house and he realizes that you will be prepared to protect yourself, he may not be as brazen as coming to your house. Mr. Speaker, that is the thought process behind the nuclear weapons. When people say that countries should own nuclear weapons because arms and rearmaments make your enemy not as sure-footed. I therefore would ask that, Mr. Speaker, and I urge my colleagues to please support this motion, because we're not asking that they do not license guns. We're saying that there must be an actionable plan by government to mop up these weapons, these military-style grade weapons that are prevalent in the crimes in Nigeria, and please give Nigerians the opportunity, especially those who have legal guns, to have the confidence with which to own and operate these legal guns, if only it serves as a deterrent to the criminals and reduces the insecurity in our country. Thank you.
Any more contribution? I should put the question. Honorable Munir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Munir Babatan Agundi. I represent Kumbota Federal Constituency of Kano State. Mr. Speaker, I do not intend to object to the motion, but I am one of the license holders of the gun. And I tried to find out from from the person that licensed me whether this was the issue that I told him about 2 weeks ago. So he said there was nothing like the issue that she's talking. But I need to know when this executive order was signed, is there any copy? When was it signed? So we need to know. I even tried to contact the police to know if I will surrender my license, but they say there is no issue like that. So I want her to give us a clarification, because I'm a bit, I contacted the person, one Bagudu in Kano, who licensed my gun. Yes, thank you.
Honorable Pajok.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend our colleague, Honorable Dr. Nena Elendu Okeje, for bringing this motion. Let me say that even though I listened to my good friend, Honorable Munir, say that he's not very sure whether the executive order was actually issued by Mr. President. But, Mr. Speaker, we're in Nigeria. This issue was reported very widely by the media. In fact, some media houses have even written editorials on this very issue, and there has been no rebuttal from the presidency or from the Minister of Information or from the spokesman of Mr. President. So, it is safer to conclude that that executive order was really issued and signed by Mr. President. And our colleague, Dr. Ukeje, brought this because of the utmost importance of this very issue. Because most law-abiding citizens who have been duly licensed to own guns would be minded to return their guns to the police or to the legitimate authorities who are supposed to have the custody of these weapons. But I want to say that it's better to err on the side of caution. And to err on the side of caution means that those who are licensed to own guns should assume that, yes, that executive order exists. And that is the issue that this motion seeks to address. Mr. Speaker, my first problem is that this policy,
Order, please. Order.
This policy has not really been driven by some empirical facts or by intelligence. What do I mean? Are there any empirical studies in Nigeria to demonstrate that some of the armed robberies, the kidnappings, the killings of Nigerians, the terrorism, and all such attacks are done by those who are licensed to own guns or those who have guns illegally? It is safe, Mr. Speaker, to assume, and I say this with all seriousness, that those who kill illegally are those who have illegal weapons. There is nobody who will have a license that will now use that licensed gun to go and kill illegally, because it will be traced not to him. The bullets are registered. So anytime, if a bullet penetrates anyone, it can be traced to the person who has the license. So I dare say that probably 99.99% of those who are licensed to own arms do not use them illegally. They do not perpetrate any illegality with the weapon. So why would the president now issue that kind of far-reaching order, which will deprive citizens that want to protect themselves and their families from the use of those weapons, given that, let me repeat, no one has been proven to use any licensed gun illegally. Rather, the problem has been that those who import weapons illegally or who manufacture weapons illegally are the ones that use them illegally to kill and cause insecurity in Nigeria. So I do think that Mr. President and the security agencies should go after those who have unlicensed guns, because it is the unlicensed guns that kill non-Nigerians, not those who, because if you now say those who are licensed to use guns, like our friend who has now exposed himself, he said he has been licensed. There are people that have license for over 20 years, and they have never used the gun. In fact, they have never even practiced how to even use the gun. But maybe psychologically, it just gives them that sense of protection and members of their families. To now say they should all return all those guns will now leave innocent, law-abiding citizens at the mercy of criminals. If I may draw an analogy, it's like having security guards in your house. Most Nigerians will tell you the truth that having security is just like maybe to say, well, this house is protected. Not that truly. As a matter of fact, it acts as a deterrent because we have seen insurgents attack even police stations, military barracks, and all that. But sometimes when they know that this person has a security person in his house, or probably has a gun, they will say, hi, let me think twice before I attempt to attack another house. That is the reason. So should government now expose non-Nigerians to the danger of saying, well, now that these people, because the people that do not have licensed guns, Mr. Speaker, will never return any gun, because it will be like they are exposing themselves. Because the condition for giving you a license is that you will apply, they will even examine you, they will even interrogate you, and if you are found to be suitable in terms of your emotional stability, in terms of your age and other indices, then you will be given a license and you will be issued with a gun. The person who is a criminal will not even apply for a license. Therefore, by this executive order, he will not even return any gun, because by returning the gun, he will be exposed to himself. So this order in itself does not serve any purpose other than to cause more insecurity in Nigeria, and it will even incentivize the criminals now saying, yes, now we're going to have a field day, because now Nigerians have returned their guns. This, in fact, like the privileged Nigerians that this law was meant to protect, they would now say, very good. Now we will now begin to invade anybody, anywhere. Mr. Speaker, we don't want to do that in this country. So I think that Mr. President should resign that decision immediately. I think that he was ill-advised to take that decision. It's something that we have to think about very, very carefully. Government, before I misunderstood, should do everything possible to mop up all illegal guns, not the legal guns that are with the Nigerians. So I must commend Honorable Dr. Nena for speaking out on behalf of Nigerians, and I'm sure no one will speak against this motion. Mr. Speaker, I've read the Firearms Act. The very first statement Dr. Nena mentioned was the fact that she's not doubting the legality of the presidential directive, because the Firearms Act says it's the president or the IGP that can issue a license to anybody, or that can allow you to even own a gun. In fact, there are even prohibited degrees of ammunition. There's a part 1 and there's a part 2. The part 2 is absolutely prohibited, except if the president licenses you, like submachine guns or some of these other guns that can be like air guns and all that. But then there are even game guns, which some people use to even hunt in the community. Are we saying that hunting has been banned also in Nigeria? This may be the far-reaching implications of this presidential order. So I think that this House will rise as one to support this motion in the interest of the security of Nigerians. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Chika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues. My name is Abubakar Chika Adamu. I represent Shora Premier Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Niger State. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend our brand new Dr. Inena for bringing this motion. Mr. Speaker, just like what Honorable Pajok did said, there is no any empirical study to indicate that most of the crimes committed by the bandits and whatever using guns are those guns that emanated from the licensed guns. Most of these crimes were committed by AK-47, AK-49, quite a number of guns. Mr. Speaker, the danger of this executive order is that it will make all of us porous, very porous, in the sense that even the smaller thieves are afraid to go to some houses, believing the fact that quite a number of people have these licensed guns. The moment we one day decide as it is done, you withdraw them, I think our communities will be very ungovernable. Mr. Speaker, today we have communities where people that have these licensed guns provide the security for that community with these their licensed guns. They go out as vigilantes within that community because the security we have are so overstretched that they cannot, and they cannot, I repeat, cannot govern or secure all other some communities within this nation, cities, for example. So now we have also vigilantes who do most of this work today. They have them guns. Some of them have even these licensed guns. You now withdraw them. Where are we pushing our little communities or societies into? We're pushing the societies into chaos, because all other people who have criminal-minded will wake up and are very much sure that there is nobody who has gone to fight them when they want to perpetrate their crime. So I believe if the government wanted to do anything new, they should only do a mere 10% recertification if there is that need even. You cannot just come one day and remove my life wire in me, because honestly, Mr. Speaker, I don't have any. I don't have a gun. I have never touched a gun. But I knew those who have it around me really give me security. We were just discussing it with Honorable Gumel. He said there was a day armed robbers came to their area, not their houses. He and one former member of this chamber, they started using their licensed gun. They were shooting, and the armed robbers flew from that area. So that is to tell you, that is also helping in secure environment when they knew you have something of that magnitude. But if Mr. President wants us to all of us to be killed, I think he can take that decision. But to me, for somebody who loves his citizens, he shouldn't do that. I think he should resign, because it is not proper, it is dangerous, and it will put this nation in more chaos than we find ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that is my submission.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Honorable Shegun Alexander Adekola, member representing Ekiti South Federal Constituency 1. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will advise that Mr. President should rescind this decision with alacrity. It will make all of us vulnerable to all sorts of hoodlums to attack us. Mr. Speaker, sir, today, in most estates where people live, you hardly find hoodlums or kidnappers or robbers coming there to attack. On the guys, they are afraid that most people living there have licensed guns. Mr. Speaker, sir, most kidnappers, robbers, where do they get their guns? Are they licensed guns? No, they are not licensed guns. Nobody will take license for his or her gun, will use it indiscriminately. This executive order is to make everybody vulnerable in Nigeria to attack. Mr. President should rescind that decision. It's uncalled for. For what reason? For what purpose? Have they found out that licensed guns are being used indiscriminately to kill people, to maim, to kidnap? No. It is the armed robbers, it is the kidnappers that use guns, and they don't have license for it. Anybody that secure license for his gun will not want to be caught for such things. And I'm sure it's people that are decent in society, well-to-do people in society, that does not want people to attack them. Not that they use the guns, but the fear of people having guns have sent jittery to the spine of armed robbers, kidnappers all over. That's why they hardly attack estates, because they believe people living there have guns. Sir, by the time all these guns are withdrawn from the public, and by the time everybody knows that no gun in anywhere, anybody can just come and attack you. Anybody can come and attack anybody on the guys that nothing to defend. Mr. Speaker, sir, I believe this Honorable House will reject in totality this idea of withdrawing armed guns from licensed people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. God bless you and my colleagues.
Professor Mojit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Professor Majid Alabi. I represent the North, the South, Egbedo, Ore, and the Igbo Federal Constituency. And I'm from the state of Osun. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, under the Nigerian law, the police control the use of guns. Before one will want to attack or support the action of the president, the first question we must ask ourselves is, what are the criteria that the police have been using to license guns? I've been a victim of armed robbers more than 2-3 occasions. I've been an applicant for guns twice, and they gave one sort of reasons or the other to deny you. For me, I believe, while one will want people to be protected, at the same time, there is no clear-cut criteria, except you want to give them money. Someone asked me to bring money. I said, I'm not going to give. If I'm not qualified to be given as a member of the House of Representatives, then you better keep it. So in a situation where people are licensed to take guns without taking any particular procedure that is transparent and visible to all of us, I will support that we withdraw it and we start a new process of recertification, as my good friend has said here. But to allow it at still now, the question we must ask ourselves, those people who are using guns illegally, where do they get them? So in a situation where the police has not got a foolproof regulation guiding the acquisition or ownership of guns, then if the president says withdrawing it, I will gladly support that position. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, in other claims, in other claims, it is either we make it general. I would have loved to call, unfortunately my tenure is running out. I would have loved to call for decentralized, so that anybody that needs gun could acquire it. But in a certain way, some people who regulate it, it is better for all of us to have than some people to be privileged to have while others don't have. The procedure that the police currently use is wrong. And because it is wrong, the president is right to say they should withdraw it. Then let them bring up a regulation to the floor of this house to be known to every Nigerian, so that if I'm qualified to own a gun and the police refuses to give it to me, I will challenge them in the court of law that they must give me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
Honorable Arabu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. Simon Narabo is my name. I represent Federal constituency. I rise to lend my weight to this motion. Firstly, we have the Firearms Act, which is an act of the National Assembly. Now, the Firearms Act gives the criteria for people to be given license to own light weapons. Light weapons. Now, I am yet to cite the executive order that is being spoken about, but I think it is good that we should be proactive. I want to surmise that the reason why the president is taking this action is in the context of the overwhelming security situation in the country. If that is the reason, that is a precipitate action. We cannot support it. Now, those who have license to own light weapons intervening law, they have not. So you cannot use an executive order to override a lawfully acquired light weapon. So on that basis, the president, on the basis of security concerns, cannot take that step. Furthermore, it has been shown that most of the weapons that are being used by the bandits, the insurgents, they are illegal weapons. Now, if they are illegal weapons, the security should go and retrieve them. Not from people who have lawful weapons, light weapons. Now, some of us, I happen to come from a constituency in which some of my people have suffered in the hands of these insurgents. 2 weeks back, we had a security meeting in my constituency. These bandits are in some hills close to a community. Anytime farmers go to farm, they'll go and kill them. I had to go home. We have a detachment of military men there. After the meeting, I engaged them. What they told me was that these insurgents are they're in the mountains, and that it does appear as if the weapons they have are higher than the one that the military have. Certainly, they cannot have license for other kinds of weapons. That is what I think the security should think out of the box to see how they will retrieve weapons from these bandits, illegal weapons from bandits, and terrorists, as the case may be, instead of instead of asking people who have them guns for hunting, who they can use for self-defense, that they should retrieve them. I think that executive order, if it has been signed, is overreaching, and it is going to complicate the security situation in the country. To that extent, I support this motion, and that executive order, with all due respect, is not well thought out. Thank you very much.
Honorable Abonta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Uzoma Nkem Abonta. Mr. Speaker, I represent Okwa Federal Constituency of Abia State. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my sister who brought this very topical issue that is being saturated all over the social media. Mr. Speaker, let me also adopt all the postulations of everybody who spoke but one before the last speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have the Firearms Act, which spells out when and how clearly arms could be used. For purpose of information, let me let him know that you may be denied license if you have a record, or based on your mental, temperamental, and mental state. But once you have no record, you are a stable person, you are a person proper, fit, the Inspector General of those who examine you will assess you and give you. Mr. Speaker, now, if you've licensed a gun, that means the person giving the license is a fit and proper citizen of good conduct. Therefore, calling now to say, return the guns, cancelling the license, I will ask two questions, Mr. Speaker. What are we going to gain if we retain all the license on these guns? And what shall we lose if we revoke this license? Mr. Speaker, nobody gives you license for Kalashnikov, Arsenal, Uzi, Browning, MM16, and all whatnot.
How do you know their names, Honorable Abonta? I was beginning to wonder. I hope you are not a merchant.
Mr. Speaker, I come from a very turbulent part of the country. We suffer them. By their sound, we can tell you what gun is on. By the sound, we tell you it's on rapid, it's on mission, or whatever. Even nobody will give you a license for telescopic guns, sir. They only give you a license for the short guns that uses cartridge, in most cases. We're looking at the history of those calling for gun returns and all whatnot. Mr. Speaker, it is a known fact that you are unlikely, a criminal is unlikely to invade an area where he will expect resistance of any nature. Mr. Speaker, the unlicensed illegal arms is what we are talking about that is giving us problem in Nigeria. I do not think that after examining anybody, given a license, that person is likely to use that gun for insurgents. Mr. Speaker, what is the percentage of licensed guns in Nigeria compared to the guns that are causing the havoc? It is 0.00%. Mr. Speaker, the insurgents carry weapons unknown to us. In fact, they even carry SSG, submachine guns, if you see them walking. Mr. Speaker, the bandits, the armed robbers, carry guns that police cannot have. Mr. Speaker, these will carry rocket launchers that we do not have. We've seen them. If you tell us now to return guns, that means you are now assuring the criminals that everybody is defenseless. You are now telling them that the gates are now quite open for attack. You are now telling them you can now do what you want to do without any resistance or shake. I think that Mr. President ought to have given an order to security agencies, say, please recover all the illegal guns. Mr. Speaker, it's just like saying you are withdrawing licenses or driving licenses. Anybody, if you have a driving license, is withdrawn. That means you are telling people to drive vehicles unlicensed. Let me answer my question, which I posed. If you withdraw the license of guns, you are now encouraging arms smuggling, because it is inherently that people must seek protection. If you say return licensed gun, then I will look for unlicensed one, if I am sure that I need protection. Therefore, we want to persuade Mr. President, if he had signed, should rescind. Like Honorable argued, you cannot also use executive order to override an act of parliament. I agree that the executive order may come where there's a lacuna, where there is a gap to be bridged. But here, there are provisions controlling arms. Therefore, using the executive order now to say amend it, abridge it, may give us problems. Let us all unanimously join force to beg Mr. President to concentrate in recovering those illegal ammunitions, those illegal guns that are giving us problems, and not the guns that are being used for gaming, being used all whatnot. Let me also ask you a big question. Are we now saying we'll no longer do hunting? Are we now saying we'll no longer, there are people who use it as a game. Let me also draw an example. I could talk about other clients. I'll use South Africa as a typical example. In South Africa, Mr. Speaker, you could buy gun like you buy MTN cards. Once you go to a gun shop, they ask you your records, they check you, you have no criminal record, they take you to the backyard and teach you how to shoot. Not even the pump actions. Then they give you live, deadly ammunition. Most of them are these branding pistols, and so they teach you how to shoot. And you go home. Therefore, you hardly see people in South Africa where they say they broke their houses and shot you. No, it's either they wait for you and square it up on the road. Therefore, I support this motion, its entirety, and urge this House to rise up to the occasion and say, please, suspend that yet until we do justice to illegal guns. Then we can now say, we've ridden the criminals of the illegal guns. Now we can now say, let's review the license. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sunday Adepoju, then Deputy Leader will round up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Sunday Adepoju, representing Ibarakwa East and Ido Federal Constituency of Oyo State. I rise to support the motion ably moved by our doctor. Mr. President may have good intention of withdrawing the guns that we have in the country, but the procedure is wrong. If you are looking at it, I don't have gun, but those of us that have gun, you know what you went through before you were given. And we have to ask ourselves, the militants, the Boko Haram people that surrendered their guns, some of them, were they taken legally? How did they collect their guns? Thousands or millions of them are outside, that they were bought without having the license to it. And those people that have the license to carry the gun, majority of them are well-to-do in the country. And I don't see them giving gun to anybody to go and do kidnapping or to go and do all those vices. Look at the S-men and all those people are kidnappers that were taking people along Kaduna and all those places. How did they get their guns? Mr. President should look for other ways of recovering these guns. Otherwise, you subject to Nigerian to a station whereby many of us will go and take other means of protecting ourselves. Take, for example, in Lagos. In a street, if you have two people that have gone there, if armed robbers should get to that street,
and they hear bad, the gun there, they go away. But in a situation where they know that the entire street may be 40 houses there, nobody's having a gun, it will be a good day, a free day for the armed robbers and all those things. In the light of this, we have to let the Mr. President know that they should go and look for other ways of recovering all those ammunitions outside so that we'll be protected. I read it in the social media, that of the civil defense too. Well, don't forget that when we are doing our campaign, we made use of those people and put them. The moment they see you with civil defense, with their gun, they go away. You will be subjecting many people, because the elections will be held this year again, and if the arms are recovered, those that will be campaigning will not have arms. And those people outside there will come and attack them. That means election in Kogi will be a free for all. That other state will be a free for all, because those who are supposed to protect them, they will not have guns. And I won't expect Nigeria to go out and go and face them. In the light of this, Mr. Speaker, I hereby support the motion that Mr. President should present the decision. Thank you.
Deputy Whip.
Thank you, the Right Honourable Speaker. I'm Pali Iriase. I represent Onwa Federal Constituency. I'm from Edo State. Mr. Speaker, we all agree that one of the foremost objectives of governance is the safety of life and property. And we also agree that in Nigeria today, one major area we as a government have failed is, our inability to protect lives and property. Insecurity in the land is so damning that we need to be very, very proactive. I do not subscribe to those who are saying that if the rumor that is so much alive that an executive order is in the offing that would deny qualified people from either having licensed guns or even where they already have them, having them withdrawn, that we should wait for that to happen before we raise our voice against it in this House. I do not support that. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I am commending, our ever-observant sister who has brought this motion to the floor today. Mr. Speaker, the timing of this rumored executive order is so uncanny. Things are getting worse. Those who are wielding illegal arms and ammunition have made life a hell for us in Nigeria. And now you are talking about the handful who, by their qualification, have the privilege of enjoying licensed guns, that they will be made to come forward, to submit such guns. And even if you now join the club of those who are qualified, you should be denied the license. Mr. Speaker, as if somebody somewhere was already aware of what I'm going to be confronted with on the floor today. As I was stepping out of my gate man gave me a public notice or invitation. All residents of Ishaya Shekari Crescent are invited to a meeting to discuss and provide solutions to the incessant armed robbery attacks on the neighborhood. And the date for that meeting...
You're watching live proceedings on the floor of the House of Representatives. Right now, the lawmakers are debating a matter of urgent public importance tabled before plenary by Representative Nena Elendu Keji on the need for the President to rescind decision on an executive order set to give effect to withdrawal of licenses from registered gun owners. Earlier at the commencement of plenary, the Speaker, Okudogara, notified members of presidential decision to decline assent to two bills as they are in conflict with existing laws. And this is where we draw the curtains on today's live transmission. On behalf of all those that contributed to the success of today's transmission, I'm Lami Ali, thanking you for your time.